Hello everyone and welcome to Real Life Racing episode 3 and the second round of the championship. Now it's quite an interesting title for this video, first win with a question mark. Well, we'll come on to that in a little while, but basically this first race was kind of a bog standard race, you would have to say. I qualified 7th, I ended up dropping down to 8th at the start and made my way back to 7th and then defended for my life for the rest of the race really. So that was about the best that I could manage really in that first race. It was kind of a bog standard race, not a lot to it, pretty boring essentially. So this one won't be on long, you'll just see the main highlights of it. So yeah, it was a bit warmer for this round. It was about 10 or 12 degrees C, which was about, it was only about 3 or 4 degrees C for the first round. And there's no water on the track. It was very grippy, the track as well. So, we were able to just go hell for leather essentially for the whole way, and it was quite hard work the first race. I wasn't expecting it to be so grippy as well. So yeah, quite different conditions to the first round, which was, there was water on the track, it was quite slippy. This is just going hell for leather essentially all the way. So yeah, first win with a question mark. Why is that question mark there? Well, you'll see why the question mark's there and as we come to the second race, which is actually what the title is about. But yeah, to recap on where we are at the moment, I said in the first episode that I'd never had a win in the Thunderkart challenge, which is what this is. I'd had second places, third places, I've qualified on pole before, but I've never actually won a race, and that is true up to this point. So yeah, the closest I have actually ever come to winning in this championship is basically I qualified on pole, got beaten to the first corner by second place, and I battled with me. It was me and him battling for the whole way through the race. It was totally crazy, and I ended up finishing second in that race by 0.2 of a second. So the closest I've ever come to winning a race is 0.2 of a second essentially, and that was pretty disappointing because I made some good overtakes to get past him, and then made some mistakes, my own mistakes, to end up back in the second. But never mind. So yeah, that's the closest I've ever come, and that was back in 2013. So yeah, I'd had in the first episode of this, I'd had a good round. I'd got some good points, made some good places, had some good races, and I'm just looking to capitalise on that really for this second round. Just hoping for some good points, good races, trying to build on what I've done in the first round essentially. So here we are, coming on to the last part of the last lap. As you can see, I'm still in 7th place, so not a lot happened. It was mainly just a defensive performance, and you'll notice that the lap times are there as well. Now in the first round I said that I was only going to be putting up those lap times when it was kind of a feature race, so I'd be showing every single lap of that race, and I wouldn't bother putting the lap times in for the highlights. But I've decided to just put them in for the highlights anyway, because they just give a much clearer picture of what's going on, and it just makes everything so much nicer, so much easier to understand how it's working essentially. And I just really like to have them in there really. It just makes it so much better. So yeah, race 2 now. That was race 1 over with, 7th place, not too bad. Race 2, I'm starting in 8th. I should have started in 7th, but it just messed up a little bit on the grid. So yeah, I'm starting in 8th place, and I kind of immediately know that I have a decent kart essentially, because I get straight up into 7th and I'm able to go after the guys in front. Now I did mention in the first episode, the previous episode, that the karts are different. Sometimes you'll get a good kart, sometimes you'll get a bad kart. They aren't a huge amount different, but there's a difference enough to be noticeable. And I know that I've got a decent kart at this point, and when you do have a decent kart, you've got to make the most of it, and that's what I'm trying to do here. But when you do start in that 8th position sort of place, it's quite difficult because you've got guys behind you all want to get in front of you. You've got guys in front of you that you might be able to be quicker than, but you've actually, you've got to get past them first. And they sort of push you back into the people behind you, and all of this time you're losing time to the guys right at the front. So you've got to, be aggressive and make hay while the sun shines essentially. You've got to get out there and do it. And I managed to get up into 6th place there straight away. So I know that I've got a decent kart, and I know that I can push on essentially and see where I can be, and that's what I'm trying to do. But as you notice in the top left, there are 30 people in this race. In the last round there were 35, but we had to split the races up because the maximum that we can have in one race is 30. But now we've got 30 people all on the track all at once, so as you can understand, it's quite hectic, especially if you're at the back. Thankfully I'm nearer the front. So yeah, I managed to get up into 5th place there, and I do get up into 4th place here. That was a little bit naughty, I would say. I was going to try and give him the place back, but there was a guy on my right who would have overtaken me, so I just had to, you know, cut my losses and just go for it. So I've done pretty well at this point, you know, 1 lap essentially, and I've managed to get up into 4th place. And I was quite pleased with that, especially after the first round. You know, I was down in 7th place and I couldn't really make any impressions there. Now I can, and I really hook up the chicane here really well, get a really nice run out, and managed to get the overtake done going into the hairpin down here as well. So that puts me up into 3rd place, and that's pretty. You know, I was really pleased with that. I was really happy to be up into 3rd place. Now, at this point, my idea was to just kind of. Obviously, the front two are close together. They are battling with each other. They are going to slow themselves down. So my idea was to just, you know, push on, see if I can catch them up gradually and see where I'm at in relation to them by the end of the race. Now, those are the 2 guys that finished 1st and 2nd in the first race as well, and one of those guys is one of the guys who wins in the 3rd race. So, you know, those 2 guys are quick up front. So, but I'm relying on them slowing each other down by battling with them to be able to catch up to them. Now I do have good speed in the kart, and I know that, but that's still a fairly decent gap that I have to catch up. So yeah, I've done really well to get up into 3rd place so far. You know, it only took me 2 laps to get up from 8th to 3rd, so that was pretty good. And this is the last thing that I really expected to happen, is what happens right here, is that the 2nd place goes for an overtake on 1st place and takes them both out, and then I end up in 1st position. And the feeling of that was just complete dread. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my god, I'm in 1st place. Shit. So just to clarify why that is, basically I'd never been in this position before, so I'd been battling for a win. As I was saying, I'd been in, you know, 0.2 of a second off a win, been in 2nd place, you know, that kind of thing. But I'd never had a gap, so I'd never had a 1 second, 2 second gap where essentially it's mine to lose. So, and I've never been in this position before, and that was difficult to cope with. I'll be honest. That's the first time. This is the first time I've ever been in that position. It's completely new. It's a completely different experience to be, you know, you can feel the pressure of everyone behind you trying to chase you down, and the guy who was in 1st position managed to get straight back around again, and he's literally only 2 seconds behind me. You'll see me look around on the final corner around here, and you know, they're literally all there right behind me. Now the gap that I do have is a good gap. It allows me to do my own race. You know, people aren't going to be trying to overtake me or anything like that. But actually what you've just watched there is the quickest lap that I've ever done around the track. That's 67.0. 1 minute 7.0 is the quickest lap I've ever done. So obviously the adrenaline was pumping at that point. So yeah, I was still flying, and I was able to do my own race, which was good. You know, I liked that fact that I wasn't having to defend or anything like that and slow myself down. And as you can see by the lap times, I was going pretty damn quick. And I managed to keep the gap behind me consistent as well. So the guy who was behind me, he stayed pretty much consistently behind me all the way through. But this is the last lap, and what you can see in front of me is a back marker. I'm coming up to lap him, and he's pretty much the whole reason there is a question mark at the end of the title of this video. So I think I'll just let you watch this on its own and see what happens, and maybe you'll feel just as nervous as I did. And breathe. I tell you what, I wasn't enjoying that at the time. That was not easy. So yeah, I managed to get around him. I managed to get around the final corner. The guy in second had caught me up a little bit through that, but not enough, and I managed to get my first ever win. So I was, obviously really happy to get that breakthrough win essentially. So yeah, really happy. I certainly had the pace to do it, and I managed to take my chances essentially, and I was really happy. Great race. Really enjoyed that one. But obviously the back marker didn't make it easy, and yeah, there's no blue flags or anything, so he wasn't obliged to move away from me. Would have been nice if he did, but never mind. So yeah, got my first win after all this time. I managed to actually get my win. So here we are though, straight on to race 3. I obviously start in first position, but I do get overtaken right at the start and go into second. Now I do manage to sort of keep in that area, but there's a guy sort of behind second place there who manages to sort of give him a little push. He's got the momentum, and then I'm just basically aiming to stay in second. Now the guy in front of me is the guy who was chasing me who was in second place chasing me initially. So he goes on to win this race, and I'm basically in a battle for second. So basically what happened in that corner is that the guy who has just gone off there went into the side of me a bit hard. He sort of put his hand up to say sorry, and then he lost it a little bit going into the hairpin. I went in the back of him, then I put my hand up to say sorry. Little things like that. There's not a lot we can do. Just put your hand up sort of as an acknowledgement kind of thing. But it ended up with the guy in the red getting into second place, and I ended up in third place. So yeah, this was quite an interesting race, this one, because I'm basically battling for second place. The guy in first, he's gone now. He gets a really good lap time in this race as well. There's no way anyone's going to catch him, and it's basically a race for second, and that's what I'm aiming for. Now I feel I am quicker than the guy in the red, as you'll see sort of as we come through the next sections of corners and stuff. I do visibly catch him, so I feel I'm quicker, and I feel that if I get past him I'll be able to drive away from him. The problem is I need to get past him, because if I don't, I've got everyone behind me trying to overtake me, and I'll just get pushed back to all of those, and then you could end up from second to seventh or something. You don't know. It could all become a mess. So I'm really anxious and eager to get past him as quickly as possible. Now I think I might be able to do it here. It's a place where I've been successful in the past, getting a good run out of the chicane, but he covers it well, and obviously he's not going to make it easy for me to get past him. Now yeah, someone came right up the inside there. That was actually the guy who took out the person who was in first place in second race. Came right up the inside there and nearly took everyone else out, but yeah, I managed to cope with it. So yeah, basically he's not going to make it easy for me. I need to get the move done, make sure I get away from him, and then let them battle all behind me essentially. So the kart that I have in this race is quite good on the straights. It's got good straight line speed, as you've seen there, but it does lack a little bit in the corners. It doesn't have, depending on how new the tyres are, depends on how much grip you've got in the corners, and I don't have that much. As you've seen there, I kind of wash out a little bit in the corners sometimes, and that's not helping. I've managed to get up into second, but then I've lost it again and I'm back into third, and it's basically a battle with this guy for a good portion. But yeah, these are you've got to adapt to whatever kart you have. If you've got a kart that's good in a straight line but not so good around the corners, you've got to adapt to that. Now this time I managed to get a better run out of the corner, and he can't defend that bit. He can't cover it because I'm already up the inside of him, and I managed to get through, and thankfully I managed to make the hairpin without sort of drifting out wide or anything like that. And that's it really. I managed to stay in second, and that's it for the rest of the race. I finished in second in this one, so another good haul of points essentially. I've had a first place and a second place in 2 separate races. Very good. That's really good for me, and I've already got a lot more points than I had this time last season already, even just after doing 3 races. So yeah, I was pretty pleased with that, pretty encouraged by my performance so far, and yeah, roll on the final essentially. And the final is basically our feature race. So just to let you know, we're on the last lap here, last part of the last lap. Obviously the lap times are there, not too bad. Second place, stayed in second for the rest of the race. Obviously I just skipped it because there was not a lot that happened. But the final is the exact opposite of that. A lot does happen in the final, and yeah, it's an interesting one. So in the final you start based on the number of points that you've accrued in the first 3 heats. So the first 3 races, you get points for all of those wherever you finish, and they're all totted up for everybody, and it determines your position for the final, and it's the final where the trophies are handed out. So I started in second, which means I had the second most amount of points out of everybody up to that point, and I don't get a very good start, but I managed to get right over to the right hand side, which is exactly where I wanted to be, and my kart doesn't seem too bad. You know, this is the first time I've driven it, so I'm thinking it's not too bad, but he does manage to get up on the inside of me there, so I dropped down to 3rd position, but I do manage to keep 3rd position at this point. Now obviously it's the final, everybody's gunning for a position here, and I think I may be able to, with him making that little mistake there, I might be able to get him into the hairpin, and I probably would have done if I hadn't been hit up the backside like that. So that was a bit of a shame. I dropped down into 6th place, just got, you know, shunted straight into the back really, and there was not a lot I could have done there. I managed to get back up into 5th, and then it all kind of goes from there. But you know, the idea was really that if I'd managed to take that corner properly and I hadn't been hit up the back, I probably could have got back up into 2nd place, and I think I probably could have been able to drive away from him there, maybe stay in 2nd. If a few people caught me up behind, you know, it wouldn't have been too bad, and I might have been able to sort of get maybe either a 2nd place, 3rd, 4th, 5th, sort of a top 5 finish, I think, if I hadn't been hit up the back there and I managed to make that move stick. But unfortunately it didn't happen quite like that, and this shows how little mistake can really cost you. So basically the guy in red makes a mistake there, slows me down, that allows this guy on the left of me to get up the inside of me, and I go down into 6th place. So really what I should have done here is accept that, and I should have accepted that I'm in 6th, regroup, figure out where I'm going to overtake. But I try to go up the inside going into here. I get a decent little run, but it's not enough. I go on the curb, and yeah, that is what happens essentially. And I've just got to sit there and wait for everybody to go past. And looking at it now, it doesn't feel like it's very long. When you sat there and you're looking at all these cars go past, it feels like an eternity. Let me tell you, it feels so long. So yeah, I'm back down in 30th place out of 30, and I have 10 laps to see where I can finish essentially. Not the kind of position that you want to be in the final really. You want to be fighting for the top spots, you want to be fighting for the top 3 spots so you can get a trophy. You don't want to be, after 2 laps, right at the back. Now the reason that I'm here is because I was probably a little bit too aggressive. I thought he might have given me a little bit more space than what he did. He did sort of knock me onto the curb, but then again I wasn't far enough up the inside of him to really be there. I had no right to be there really. I should have backed out. I should have just, you know, waited for another position. So that's a mistake, and that's really cost me. And I've noticed sort of this month the 2 things that I really need to improve on are my starts. So I generally seem to lose places at the start. They're a lot better than what they used to be last season, but I still seem to lose a few places at the start, so I need to work on that. And I need to work on not making daft errors in good positions. Now I mentioned this in one of the GTA videos that I did. That's one of my weaknesses. I seem to make stupid little errors, being either a little bit too aggressive or something like that when I don't need to. You know, I didn't need to make that overtake going up there. I didn't need to do that. I could have waited, and that, you know, it's cost me. It's got me up on the curb. I beached on the curb, spun round, and you know, I'm right at the back. But on the upside of that, it does provide an interesting race for you guys to watch. So I am already up into 28th place. I overtook one guy and one guy pulled off. So it's basically me trying to do a recovery drive and see what kind of points I can, what I can salvage out of this pretty horrific race. And I guess that really is motorsport in a nutshell, I suppose. You know, you go from hero to zero sometimes. Sometimes you have a pretty average race, like my first race. Sometimes you have a really good race, like the next 2. And then sometimes you have a really bad race. You make daft mistakes, or you know, something just goes wrong. It just doesn't go your way, and you've got to fight your way back. And I guess that, you know, that's what I enjoy about motorsport in general. It just it's never the same. Never two races are never the same, and it's all about improving all the time and just enjoying it essentially. And I despite once I'd got over the initial disappointment of being back into 30th place, I enjoyed the rest of this race because it allowed me to overtake people, it allowed me to have a little bit of fun, and that's what it's all about. I'm here just to enjoy it and have some fun. So I'm up into 26th place now, and I can't actually overtake anyone in this first section because the yellow light is on, which normally the yellow light is to show that someone has come off. It's like a yellow flag in Formula 1. You can't overtake under those circumstances, even though that guy did there. He shouldn't have done. The yellow light actually shouldn't have been on because there was no one there, and you'll see me signal to the marshal on the next lap that the yellow light's on, and by the lap after that it is off. But I'm basically at this point, down with all the maybe the newer guys, the guys, the first time, the second time that they've ever done it, or things like that. They're all in the suits that has been provided for them by the track rather than their own. They might not be taking it as seriously. They would probably still be able to win a random race just alongside their friends, and maybe that's what they've done. They've done that. They've won one of those races. They are still very quick guys, but they don't have sort of the experience or the absolute speed to be up at the top. So yeah, I'm basically just trying to work my way through them and see where I can end up essentially. And it can be difficult because at least when you're racing against the guys at the top, you have a certain awareness of what they are going to do. All of us generally have the same. And there's that signal just to say that the light was still on. We all have at the top, that we know what each of us are going to do. We know where the overtaking spots are. It's a lot more predictable, and if you are battling with someone up at the top, you aren't going to lose that much in terms of lap time, because you don't just go for an overtake where it's not possible, and little things like that. When you're down in the pack like this, it's a lot less predictable. You're not sure what people are going to do at any one moment. People could lock up their brakes and go into the side of you. There's so many different things. I mean, you've got to give them credit because they are doing well. They are good enough to be in the race in the first place. But you've got to also be a bit more aware that they aren't running at the top, and they might not be necessarily as experienced as you are used to racing against, and you've got to give them maybe a little bit more space than you normally would, or something like that, because you just don't know what they're going to do. But on the flip side of that is that they make more mistakes. There'll tend to be a few more mistakes. You might find it a little bit easier to get through them essentially, and that's what I'm finding here. I can make the overtakes a lot easier than what I would if it was if I was racing up against the top. I can just put it where I need to put it with all the experience that I have, and I'll be able to get the overtakes done essentially. And this is my classic overtake, quick through the chicane and managing to get through. I've got a bit of a nice gap in front of me now where I can really get some lap time down. So I've managed to get up into 19th place. So that's 11 places made up in 5 laps, I think that is now. So I'm making decent progress. Obviously the further up you get, the harder it is to make positions because you're coming up against quicker and quicker guys all the time. But I've made decent progress already, and I think I've already got into the points, which is good. I've managed to get myself some points already, and that it takes the edge off. It's always good to get some points. So yeah, I'm just keep going essentially and just see what I can do. And when you do have a gap like this to people in front, I'm just basically trying to put a decent lap time down to try and catch up as much as possible, and then when I get to them, try and overtake as much as possible. And that's what it's all about when you're at the back like this and have to make your way back up. So I am in 18th place now, and that's literally just because some guy came off into the pit lane and I overtook him in the pits. So yeah, up into 18th and pushing on. But all in all, it hasn't really been a bad month for me, I would have to say. I've won my first race. That's a big thing in itself. I was really pleased with that. I've had the fastest lap that I've ever had around the circuit this month. I've I've got a lot to be happy about with my performance, and you know, coming back through the pack like this, I've done a good job to be able to, you know, get the best out of a bad situation, that sort of thing. So I've got a lot to be happy about. Obviously, I'd rather I didn't make the mistake. I would rather have been fighting for the top spots, fighting for a trophy in the final. But taking it as a whole, I feel like I've done quite well, especially with the first win. You know, I was really happy about that. So yeah, you know, overall I haven't done too badly. And in terms of the points that I got as well, as you'll see at the end, I actually got a lot more points than what I did in this round last season as well. So last season I actually got less points in round 2 than I did in round 1. So this season I've actually got more points in round 2 than I did in round 1, and both of those in comparison to the points that I actually got last season are, you know, it's huge. I think I've got like sort of 50% more points now than what I had at the same point last season. So I've certainly, that marks the improvement that I had over last season, over 1 year ago from now. So yeah, still plenty to be happy about, but still plenty to improve upon as well. And definitely my stats and not making stupid mistakes is definitely the forefront of my mind for things that I need to improve, and that's what I'll be looking to do in the next few rounds. But speaking of the next few rounds, I won't actually be available for the next round, so I'm going to miss out on the 3rd round of the championship because I'm somewhere else. So what I might try and do is enter just a random race with, you know, just randomers, and see, maybe start at the back and see how far I can get up the grid or something like that, just to, you know, give you guys something to watch and something that's a little bit different to watch. Because otherwise it would be another 2 months before you saw another real life racing video. So that's something that I'm just, you know, playing around with doing at the moment. I might do it, I'll just see what I can do. So yeah, I'm going to actually not be here for the 3rd round of the championship. Now that doesn't actually matter so much, because it's out of the 10 rounds of the championship, it's only your top 8 points that count essentially. So, you know, if you have 2 zeros, they won't count in your final point tally. It's only the best 8. Obviously you give yourself a better chance of having a good point score if you enter all of them, because, you know, I don't know, I might have entered the 3rd round and won all of the races, you know, I just don't know. But, you know, you just got to take it as it comes. You know, I can't go to it, so that's the position that I'm in. Now, I am going to talk about the championship sort of later on, further down the line, depending on where I am and things like that. There's no real need to talk about it now, and there's no real need for me to focus on it either. You know, I don't want to be focusing on championships or anything like that, because I'm not expecting to be anywhere with it. I'm just taking each race as it comes and trying to improve every time I go out there. So yeah, you know, it's been another interesting real life racing video. I think it's been another long one, you know, half an hour. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I really enjoy doing these, I have to say. They take so long to edit and render and, you know, record themselves. I mean, half an hour of talking is enough for anyone, but you know, I do really enjoy making these videos, and even if they got no views, I would still make them. But you guys seem to like them as well, and based on the feedback that I get, you guys seem to enjoy it, and you know, I'm going to continue doing these because I enjoy making them. I enjoy showing you guys seem to enjoy them. So yeah, you know, I'm really happy about this series. Essentially, I really enjoy it. So yeah, here we are, last lap of the final. I'm in 15th place, and I do manage to get one more overtake done before the end, which is here. I managed to sort of carry some speed right around the outside, get up the inside there, and get the move completed into the chicane. I am quicker than the 2 guys in front of me as well. There isn't enough laps left. There's not enough time, and you know, based on the if we'd had an extra 10 laps or something, I might have been able to get back up to 8th place or something or whatever, based on the actual lap times that I was doing. But you know, that's how it is essentially. So you just gotta take it for what it is. 16 places in 10 laps, not too bad. I was pretty happy with that. 14th position, you know, I'll accept that. A few decent points, 9 points for that. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. Interesting race, I would say. You know, enjoyable race, coming back through the pack and getting the overtakes done. But yeah, could have been better. But either way, first win this month, so I was happy about that. So yeah, here we have now the points that I managed to get. Obviously 25 points was for the first position and 25 for the 22 for the second. You know, that really topped up the points. And in comparison to last season, I'm already way ahead. You know, 141 points where I only had 90 points this time last season. So I'm already way ahead of what I was. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Be sure to leave all your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Be sure to hit that like button as well if you enjoyed. And I'll see you next time.